Welcome to the Tony Gaskins Show, best-selling author, celebrity life coach, and international speaker. The purpose of this show is to bring you motivation, inspiration, and education in the areas of life, love, and business. Thank you for joining me. Now let's get started.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Talks with Tony. Now, today's question is, do men grieve relationships? Hi, Tony. Hope you and your family are doing well. I have a question for you. Do men grieve relationships? I am recovering from a breakup from a 2.5-year relationship with a man who I thought I was going to marry. It was his choice to leave. He felt that we were too different and didn't have enough in common. I am 32 with no kids and established. He is 38 with no kids and established. To make a long story short, he wanted to keep in touch, but I told him that either we are together or we aren't. It's your choice to be done, so let's just let it be. I wasn't going to beg. That's just not who I am. I just let it go. We haven't spoken in about 8 months. It's been tough, but I've stuck to my word and I've not reached out to him. I've come a long way in my healing process, praying, focusing on myself, and staying active. I've often wondered if I made the right decision in cutting contact because I have missed him. But I know that I did the right thing. I recently discovered that as soon as we split, he jumped into a relationship with someone else. When I learned this information, it's like the scab was ripped off of a wound and I returned to week 1 of our breakup emotionally. I was so shocked and thrown off by him jumping into a new relationship right after we split. I couldn't even stomach talking to anyone else after our breakup, let alone jump right into another relationship. He's with a woman who seems to be a downgrade. She has 2 kids, one is 15 and another is 12. She's also unattractive, the total opposite of myself. I often have to be reminded that I shouldn't tie my value into his actions. But when I think about the time invested and the relationship that we had, to see that he just moved on so quickly, it makes me question everything, especially since I always felt so safe and didn't take him as one to cheat or anything. I've really had to take some time out to reflect on things that I could have missed. Anyhow, essentially, I'm trying to not get stuck on the past. My prayer has consistently been to let go, and I've been praying for total emotional detachment from him. But I have to ask, do men not feel pain after the loss of a relationship? Do they not grieve? For me, the hurt that I felt was honestly worse than the bereavement of the death of a loved one. I want to make sure that I am completely healed before I start dating again. How do men move on so quickly? Can you please shed some light on this topic? Thanks, Tony. Deep. Very, very deep. And this might take every relationship coach in the country sharing some insight on this for us to really, really get it. But the question is, yes, men do grieve relationships, but men do grieve differently. Men grieve differently than women because we aren't as emotional as a woman. And when I say as emotional, I mean the part of a man's brain that senses and feels emotions is smaller in a man's brain than it is in a woman's brain. So a woman, you feel much deeper. You feel deeply because of your role in the world. You are a nurturer. When you think about men and what men had to do, men were hunters. So men, we have to go out and hunt. And if you eat meat, then we had to hunt and kill. And before guns, we had to hunt in a way that we can kill with our bare hands. So imagine a man having to grab what he wants to eat with his bare hands and snap its neck in half or off, see the blood dripping, bring it home, rip it apart, clean out all the guts and intestines, clean it out, pluck all the feathers or, cut off all the fur, and then cook that animal over the fire. And then once territory and all of this came into place, men had to go out to war. And we had to go out to war. And before there were guns, we had to create swords and, different, not swords. I say it how it's spelled. My son always teases me, Dad, it's not a sword, it's a sword. But I'm country. So we had to create these swords, and we had to create all this stuff, and we're cutting off heads. We're literally stabbing men in the stomach, stabbing men in the throat, slicing in their throat, and then we cut their head off, hold their head above our head, hold it up by the hair, let their blood drip over us, look up, let a piece of some of the blood drip in our mouth, taste it, wipe the blood all over us, keep that head for a trophy. In one part of the world, they played basketball. It wasn't basketball then, but they had a basket, they had a hoop. I was reading about it the other day. And some of the times they would play getting the head that they decapitated in battle into this hoop. It was like their soccer ball, and their basketball was a decomposed head. It was somebody's head. And this is what a lot of times I don't think women think about, how different we were created. How different we were created. So when you're dealing with a man, you're dealing with like the first step after a beast, which I don't believe in evolution, but we are like the refined beast. So God made apes and monkeys and things that kind of, emulate man. But then after that, he created a man who we are mammals, and we operate in a lot of ways like certain animals. And so we don't think about it like that. We don't break it down like that. And that's what you have to realize. But the woman stayed home. She was out of harm's way unless someone came to pillage, through the village and kill women and children. The woman was out of harm's way. She didn't go to battle. She didn't have to fight and cut anyone's head off. She didn't go do the hunting. She could help with the preparation, but the woman was put on a pedestal and say, look, you stay home. And not really on the pedestal because, women didn't have rights, and we silenced women in a lot of ways. But when it came to the physical side of things, men had to get out there. So the way a man was created, God knows all, our hearts feel less, but we feel it differently. We feel the pain, but we handle it different. So as a woman, you may feel pain and you cry. A man may feel pain and he punches a hole in the wall. He goes and gets on the bench press and he is bench pressing 100 reps and, screaming. He goes and gets on the punching bag. He goes and gets in his car and he floors it to 120 miles an hour. Whereas a woman, you feel pain and you cry. You might even feel like hurting yourself because you internalize. You are an emotional being that was fearfully and wonderfully created. So you feel so deeply, and that is also the part of your brain that allows you to hear a baby crying in the middle of the night. If you notice and you ever been around a man and kids and a baby's crying, a lot of men can sleep right through a baby crying in the middle of the night. But a woman, that first pitch, it rings in your brain. It's like an alarm. It sounds an alarm in your brain because that part of your brain is large that hears that high-pitched cry for help. And you feel something. Whereas a man, if we have to get up every night with a child, we literally get to the place that, most men will feel like strangling that child. And I don't say that lightly. Like, that's a real thing. And a lot of women don't think about that. And that's why we see, when you turn on the news, every week I turn on the news, I see a man who looks like an average normal guy going to prison for killing a kid because he put a sock in his mouth and let him choke, let him choke or suffocate, or he shook him too much and the baby had shaken baby syndrome and it went from that, or the baby died, because men are wired differently in the brain. Now, so a man has to teach himself and has to learn and has to talk to himself and say, look, this is a baby. This is my baby, or this is my stepchild. Like, I have to love this baby. Whereas a woman, it's innate. And we see even some women, I see some women going to prison for killing their kids. So that's also a human thing too, that the way the mind works, but it's much worse in the man. So, read about it, study it. You'll see the differences. And this is what you're going to notice. I remember one guy wrote a book and he said, the title is Men Don't Heal, We Hoe. Stephen James Dixon, I believe. And I met him along the road of, speaking in the speaker circuit. And I was like, man, that's so deep. I didn't even have to read the book. I never read the book, but just the title itself was a book to me. And I got it, because men on average move much faster to the next relationship than a woman. And the reason being is because there hasn't been as much stake put on, a man's body. Like, there's not much value put on a man's body. So we can go and just spread our bodies, around, and the man is the hero for spreading his body around. Where if a woman spreads her body around, she's the zero. So the man is a hero, the woman is the zero. The woman has to put the red, A on her back. I'm not sure if that's the scarlet letter, if that's what that really is. But she, the woman, you put this sign on your forehead, I am loose. If you sleep around, you get labeled. If a man sleeps around, oh, he's just being a man. So because of that, the way we've been conditioned, the way we have, we are wired, men just jump from relationship to relationship. And it's not that he just jumped into another relationship. That relationship probably was already there. So in your 2.5 years, he probably was talking to other women the entire 2.5 years. And then what happens is, when men are dating, because men want the latest, greatest, we want the finest of everything, we want the best thing, is a lot of men date looking for their upgrade the entire time. And so for a woman, unfortunately, it's like you're never safe. And if he finds a woman that does something more for him than you do in a certain way, he would leave you to be with her. And it's a dirty game out there, but that's why I don't promote having sex before marriage, because you're not safe. And even in marriage, divorce still can happen, but at least you can feel better about it because you had some stipulations, you had some standards in place to where this man really had to work to have your body. But because you're not safe, you can't give everything. Like, if you're dating, you can't be having sex and moving in with this man and letting him move in with you, or you move in with him. You can't be cooking his food every day, washing his dirty drawers, loaning him money, letting him live off of you without a job. You can't give a boyfriend husband benefits because you are not safe. You are not protected. A man has done nothing for you until he walks you down the aisle. So this guy, he was still single in his mind. You were in a relationship with a single man. And this is I believe the last point I have for you, is you did not lose a man. You lost a grown boy. So you said a lot to me when you said he's 38, no kids, and established. That's scary to me. And I hate, and I don't want to offend the men who are listening who are 38, no kids, and established, but God didn't put you here for that, man. And I'm going to just tell you, man to man, God did not put you here for you to be 40 years old, never been married, no kids. That's not what you're here for. If you're 40 years old with no kids, you need to be a billionaire. You need to be a billionaire. Like, or you need to be Apostle Paul. You need to have a world-renowned ministry. And you need to be abstinent. You need to be abstaining from sex, but it is no excuse in the world. Well, it is an excuse. And an excuse is if a person didn't see marriage growing up, if a person was not raised to love, if a person was not raised to start a family and be the head of their household. See, what's happening today is a lot of men are getting caught up in this playboy lifestyle. How much money can I make? You know, how high can I climb on this corporate ladder and use my status to get everything out of these women, to play house with different women. And men, these type of men will loan you 2.5 years of their life because you are the best option. So he gives you the most attention, but he's still entertaining other women. But see, the thing about it is 38-year-old man with no kids and he's established, he's either a playboy, meaning he's a grown boy in a grown man's body, or he likes men. A lot of times men will remain single with no kids and never been married and be 40 years old because they've been battling internally with the fact that they really don't want a woman. And a lot of times in those cases is when a man will go to a downgrade because he really just wants a woman to fill that space. He's not looking for a queen. He just wants somebody to fill that space to say, hey, you're my girlfriend and we're going to have sex, but you're really my cover up because I really like men. And so, and I'm seeing it, and it's too real for a lot of y'all. Y'all ready to drop your phone, punch your computer. But this, hey, it's 2018. You better know. You better, because men, we wired for a woman. Like, we wired to be in a relationship. Like, we are wired to want a relationship. So, you know, whether he gay or straight, as humans, we are wired for a relationship. And so if you meet somebody, a man, especially a man, it's different for women because women have to be chose. Like a man has to propose to a woman. But men, we have all the access. We have all the rights. We have all the freedom. We have such a vast, majority. We got so much privilege and opportunity. To every man, it's 10 options. It's 10 women. Like, it's insane how many options are out there for a man. So it is no excuse to be 38 years old, never been married, and no kids, unless something just is not clicking right on the inside, just not mature yet or not really into women. And that's typically what it is. And so for him to go down, that makes no sense for a 38-year-old man with no kids to go to a woman with 2 kids who is unattractive and not established. Like, that makes no sense. So to me, it sounds like she's just feeling, she's a placeholder. And to be honest with you, he probably let you go because you're too good of a woman. You're too good of a woman, and you realize, like, if I stay with this woman, I'm going to have to really put up a shut up because she has high standards and she has high value. She has high worth and she knows her worth. But if I go get me one of these women who she already has 2 kids, and she could be a little desperate because she just wants somebody to love her. She's just looking for a stepdaddy. So she'll put up with more junk. She'll put up with more drama, and I can kind of do my thing on the side, and I can, do me because she's so desperate for a relationship because she has 2 kids. That might not be the truth, but that could be what he's assuming. And in some cases, I see that to be a case, with a lot of women with kids, that they really, really want a man. Now, you have some women who they're still patient. They're still patient. They're still okay. But for the most part, a lot of women are growing desperate because she's already beating herself up and saying, will a man love me, having to raise somebody else's kids? He's raising another man's kids. Well, can I have a man? Will a man accept me and my kids? So if she gets interest from a man, she's kind of willing to put up with more and to fight for the relationship because she knows that a lot of men see that as a strike against her. And so all of this goes into play. All this goes into play, and you have to think about this thing. And to everybody who's listening, who it may not be your exact situation, what I want you to take from this is, when you lose somebody, if somebody chooses to leave you, let them go. That's not your man. That's not your woman. If somebody chooses to leave you, let them go. So yes, you did the right thing by cutting him off cold turkey, by cutting him off completely, by not reaching out to him. Because if you would have tried to hang on, you just would have got drugged. So imagine someone trying to leave and you trying to hold on. What's going to happen is you holding on to their shirt tail. They're pulling away from you. You hanging on. Eventually you're going to fall and you just going to start getting drugged. Drugged through the mud, drugged through the asphalt, drugged through the Santa spurs, drugged through the weeds, drugged through everything because you hanging on to somebody who's trying to let you go. So you did the right thing. And you love hard, you love deep, and you got a soul tie, and that's why you feel the way you feel. But guess what? Keep praying. Keep listening to the podcast. Keep watching videos. Read you a book a month. Go to a seminar a month. Sign up for coaching or counseling. Do 4 to 12 sessions. Vent. Hear different perspective over and over and over about your situation. Evaluate the situation. Watch game film. Learn from it. And then that new knowledge will help you heal and make sense of what you went through and what you're going through. And this will help you break that soul tie and get your strength back. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep pressing. Keep believing. You're not wrong for cutting them off. He did grieve, but just in a different way. And it's going to catch up with him later. So when you are 100% healed, that's when he's going to be crippled over and he's going to be running back to you. But just keep it moving, because he told you what he told you. He meant what he said. You're not the one for him. Don't look back. Keep going. He's going to circle back to you. But just remember what he said and you go on about your business. Hey, thank you so much for submitting your question. Thank you for listening. If you have a question, please send it in to inbox@TonyGaskins.com. Inbox@TonyGaskins.com. Remember, I'm just your brother from another mother, trying to give you my 2 cents and hoping it doesn't make me bankrupt. We will talk soon. I'll be back in the inbox looking for more questions. Talk soon.